Saudi Arabia is being accused of hacking the phone of Jeff Bezos, the owner of the online shopping giant Amazon and the Washington Post. Bezos hired private investigators after his phone messages were leaked to the National Enquirer tabloid newspaper. His detectives have linked the hack to the Washington Post's extensive coverage of the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Well, Saudi ministers have previously denied any link to the National Enquirer leak. Now, Iyad al-Baghdadi is a human rights activist, and he tweeted to confirm, yes, I was a direct source for Bezos' investigation team. Over the past 6 weeks, my team and I were working overtime on the story, but held off on publishing anything. There is still a lot that we can't publish, but we continue to work on this. Well, we spoke to Iyad al-Baghdadi earlier, and he says there are many layers to the story.
It is directly linked to what happened with Jamal Khashoggi. As you can imagine, Jeff Bezos is a man who owns the Washington Post, but is also a man who is a businessman who was doing a lot of business in Saudi Arabia and planning to do even more business in Saudi Arabia. It's also the angle of the Saudis being not very disciplined about their usage of this kind of technology. Which is actually threatening. It's not only threatening to, it's basically really effectively, it could start a cyber war where even companies, if this is legal, then it is a big problem. But also it's a problem, I should mention, for the technology companies that actually provide these kind of services, such as NSO and others. And you might notice that for about a week now, ahead of Gavin de Becker's article in the Daily Beast, in which he exposed this, there has been a number of reports which I can only explain, which I can only describe as PR. It's like they're actually anticipating, they were anticipating something like this, and they wanted to kind of say that we're not that insidious company that cooperates with dictators, but we're also saving lives somehow. Of course, whether you believe them or not is another question.
Well, it isn't the first time that Saudi Arabia has been accused of this kind of thing. Sara Khairat explains.
Saudi Arabia seems to have adopted a cyber campaign to silence those disagreeing with the kingdom, both at home and abroad. Omar Abdulaziz is one of them. He's in exile in Canada and was a friend of murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Last June, he received a suspicious text message with a link to track a parcel delivery. A Canadian research group, Citizen Lab, says that it's confident that Omar's mobile phone was targeted by Saudi Arabia and infected with spyware. Now, the surveillance tool is known as Pegasus. It's owned by an Israeli company called the NSO Group, and there have been multiple reports on how it's been used in several countries to target civil society. In August, Amnesty International reported that a Saudi dissident and one of its staff were attacked with Pegasus, both receiving messages with malicious links from the same domain that linked back to NSO. At the time, the company responded to Amnesty's findings and put out a statement. They said the NSO Group developed cyber technology to allow government agencies to identify and disrupt terrorist and criminal plots. They also added our product is intended to be used exclusively for the investigation and prevention of crime and terrorism. If an allegation arises concerning a violation, we investigate the issue and take appropriate action based on those findings. The NSO Group has been accused of being an accessory to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, but it denies any involvement. Israeli media reported that Saudi Arabia paid $55 million for the Pegasus surveillance tool, a system so advanced it classified it as a weapon and requires government approval to sell it. The NSO Group has already been sued by Omar Abdulaziz, and Amnesty has requested Israel revoke its export license for human rights violations. And that's not all, because Saudi Arabia has also been using Twitter bots. It's a software that interacts with other Twitter accounts and can spread whatever message you want it to. Hundreds or thousands of them flood Twitter to boost a conversation or even a hashtag until it takes off on its own. In this way, you can create a fake trend. Saudi has used this tool against its neighbour Qatar, creating fake news. And when Khashoggi was murdered, Saudi bot armies got to work too. And then last month, at least 4 verified Twitter accounts, including one belonging to a dead US weather expert, were hacked and used to spread pro-Saudi messages.